So now we are talking about a bivariate analysis where both the variables are categorical in nature, or they are factors. Okay, the plotting option that we use here is again a bar plot. So now I am going to call ggplot. Please note this may be slightly different in terms of syntax, but there are very limited plotting options that we commonly use, so it will not be very difficult as long as you practice. Let's say aesthetics. I'm going to use x-axis to show occupation, and I'll leave it here. I want to use a bar plot, so I'm going to use geom bar, and I'm going to define the y aesthetic here. Here we will put y-axis as a fill. And let's say if I run this, what is it that we get as an output? So I get a plot like this, but maybe this is not the best way to look at it. So I can add a little more. I can make a few changes here. I can put position is equal to fill here, and here is the new plot that I get. Now this makes a little more sense because it's now talking in proportions. Okay, so if you want to interpret this, you can say that we have relatively higher rejections. One is rejection, right? So we have relatively high rejections in the self-employed category compared to the other two categories. Or the other way to read it could be that we have relatively less approvals in the self-employed category because there are high rejections compared to the other two categories. So this is a basic visualization that you're able to obtain by creating a bar plot. Another way to visualize this a little differently could be by changing from position is equal to fill to position equals to dodge. And if I run that, you'll see a slightly different plot, essentially conveying the same information, but this is now talking in absolute values. What was the number of approved cases and what was the number of rejects in each of the categories? So let's say the query comes to your mind that you want to see this, but you want to see this separated by different genders. So for that, we have an option here, which is known as facet wrap. And I can always go ahead and get this by gender. So this will create plots side by side for an easier comparison. Let me execute that. So now you can see that this is how the spread is across genders. So now how do we read this? This shows an interesting pattern. While at an aggregate level, when we were trying to analyze self-employed versus the other two categories, we could see proportionally there were some differences. In the category of gender male, you can see it's relatively higher, whereas it's different when you look at the gender female. So at times it is good to look at the data at an aggregate level. At times it is good to look at data by breaking it down at different levels. Now what we did here is that we introduced a third variable. Please understand that there will always be limitations in terms of visualization because we only deal with two-dimensional graph. And now that we actually wanted to see an addition of third variable, we could introduce that by creating 3 grids in our plot. Yes, at times creating this grid can convey useful information that might be otherwise hidden at an aggregate level. In all these videos, whatever we've done so far is available here in the form of an R script, which I can simply go ahead and click on save. It will prompt me to choose the right location on my system, and I can save my work. Whenever I would want to revisit it, I can reopen the file and it will be available for me.